Have you ever stepped into a place where the air itself told you that you didn't belong? Where the chandeliers sparkled brighter than your welcome, and every glance reminded you that your presence was an unwelcome disruption? That is exactly what happened when Daniel Reed walked through the doors of Lorenzo's boutique, one of the most prestigious luxury stores in Westwood, Los Angeles. Security cameras were rolling. Phones would soon be raised. Within minutes, Daniel would be humiliated in front of strangers. Within hours, the incident would set fire to the internet. And within a single day, this store that had thrived for decades would collapse under the weight of its own arrogance. Daniel was 34 years old. On this particular afternoon, he chose to wear his most ordinary outfit, a plain hoodie, jeans that had faded from years of wear, sneakers that had seen better days. On his shoulder, a backpack that looked more suited for a commuter than a man stepping into a hall of Italian marble and diamond chandeliers. The boutique was alive with polished perfection. Crystal chandeliers spilled golden light across silk-draped displays. Scarves from Paris fluttered gently under the air conditioning. A wall of watches glittered behind glass thicker than a bank vault. The smell was intoxicating: rich leather, faint notes of rare perfume, polished wood. Every detail was crafted to whisper luxury and scream status. Daniel walked forward calmly, but the moment he entered, conversations shifted. An older couple stopped talking mid-sentence. Two young women near the handbag counter glanced at his sneakers and then exchanged a knowing smirk. The sales floor staff noticed too. Behind the counter, a manager named Laura leaned toward her colleague and whispered something that carried the sharpness of warning. Her eyes flicked to security. Daniel ignored it all. He had no interest in their stares. He moved straight toward the watch display, where a collection of rare Patek Laureate models sat beneath cold white lights. Each timepiece carried a price tag that could buy a luxury car. His eyes settled on one particular model, a Nautilus with a midnight blue dial priced at $89,000. Daniel studied it with quiet focus, pulling out his phone to compare specifications. As he did, something slipped from his pocket. A small detail that only the keenest eyes would have noticed. The corner of a boarding pass, first class destination Tokyo. At the counter, a sales associate named Emma pretended not to see him. She was busy helping an older woman pick out a necklace that glowed with pearls the size of grapes. Emma's back was turned to Daniel, her body angled away as though to create an invisible wall. The message was clear: you do not belong here. Daniel waited, his phone in one hand, his other resting on the glass. The Bentley logo on his car keys glinted briefly in the light, but no one noticed. His backpack bore a subtle Hermes tag, but to them, it was just another worn bag carried by someone who didn't look the part. Finally, when Emma finished with her customer, Daniel spoke. His voice was steady and polite. "Excuse me. Could I see that Laureate model, please?" Emma turned slowly. She crossed her arms, raised an eyebrow, and exhaled as though the request itself was offensive. "That watch?" Her eyes swept over, his hoodie, his shoes, his backpack. Then came the sound that cut deeper than any insult. A short, sharp laugh. "You do realize that piece starts at $89,000, right? I think you'd be better off at the mall down the street." Her words hung in the air like poison. Other shoppers stopped browsing. Some leaned closer, pretending to look at merchandise while pulling out their phones. Someone whispered, "Drama." Someone else began recording. Daniel's face remained calm, his voice steady. "I understand the price. I'd still like to see it." Emma shook her head slightly, turning to another associate across the room with a smirk. The second woman glanced back, frowned, then returned to her well-dressed couple without intervening. "Sir," Emma said slowly, as though speaking to a child, "these watches aren't for everyone. Do you even understand what $89,000 means?" Daniel looked directly at her. "I understand numbers quite well." At that exact moment, his phone buzzed. The screen lit up with a message. Board meeting moved to 3:15, still, in conference room C. He quickly silenced it, but the words were visible to anyone paying attention. Emma's eyes caught the message. Her confidence wavered for just a fraction of a second. His phone case itself was expensive, carbon fiber engraved with a corporate crest. But her mind had already built its picture of him, and she clung to it. "Why don't you look at our vintage pieces?" she suggested, her tone softening but still dismissive. "We have some very nice watches under 5,000. That might be more realistic," Daniel repeated, calm and unshaken. "I'm interested in the Laureate." At the far end of the store, security guard Michael Torres shifted his stance. He had been watching from the moment Daniel entered. Years of police work had trained him to recognize tension, and though Daniel's demeanor was calm, the dynamic unfolding in front of him carried the scent of trouble. He wasn't sure why, but something about the scene made him uneasy. By now, customers were recording openly. A teenage girl, known online for broadcasting local gossip, had already started a live stream. "Something's happening at Lorenzo's," she whispered into her phone. Within minutes, dozens of viewers tuned in, then hundreds, and the number was climbing. The stage was set. The clock was ticking, and no one in that store could have imagined what would happen next. Laura, the boutique manager, noticed the growing stir near the watch counter. She had run high-end retail for over a decade and recognized when a situation might spiral into something bigger. Customers recording, whispers spreading, a live stream audience climbing by the second. This wasn't just another awkward encounter. This was a storm building in plain sight. She walked over, her heels striking the marble with sharp authority. "Is everything all right here?" she asked, her voice smooth but edged with warning. Emma, relieved to have backup, quickly spoke. "This gentleman is asking about the Laureate collection, but I explained our pricing structure." Daniel turned toward Laura with a calm that contrasted with the tension in the air. "I'd like to purchase a watch as an anniversary gift," he said evenly. "I was hoping to see the Nautilus model." Laura's eyes scanned him. The jeans, the hoodie, the scuffed sneakers. Her manager's instincts told her one story. But then she noticed things Emma had missed. His posture was confident, not defensive. His watch, subtle but refined, spoke of someone who knew quality. She hesitated. For a moment she wavered between suspicion and professionalism. "That piece requires a deposit before handling," she said. $25,000. The air thickened. Phones tilted closer to capture every word. The live stream comments flashed. "This is uncomfortable. Why can't he just look? Store seems shady." Daniel nodded thoughtfully. "That's reasonable. For a piece of that value." Laura blinked. She hadn't expected agreement. Most customers would balk. Yet he treated it as a simple business formality. "You have that amount readily available?" she asked, her voice betraying doubt. "Would you prefer cash or wire transfer?" Daniel replied. The question silenced the room. A hush fell across the boutique as customers sensed the balance shifting. Laura's composure cracked, but her pride refused to yield. If she admitted her mistake now, it would mean undermining her authority in front of staff, customers, and cameras. Daniel's phone buzzed again. The screen briefly showed a call from Equity Partners. He silenced it quickly, but Laura saw the name. A flicker of unease ran through her. The teenage live streamer whispered into her phone. "This is going viral. Something's about to happen." Her viewer count ticked upward from hundreds to thousands. The digital crowd was growing restless, sensing a twist. Daniel checked the time. Calm, patient, as if he knew something no one else did. "May I see the watch?" he asked again, his voice steady as stone. Laura stared at him. 15 years in luxury retail had taught her that the wealthy rarely dress to impress. Tech founders in hoodies, investors in sneakers, oil tycoons in tracksuits. But still, her pride pushed her down the path she had already chosen. "I'll need to see identification and a credit card," she finally said. Daniel reached into his wallet and set a sleek black credit card on the counter, heavier than ordinary cards, embossed with his name, Daniel A. Reed. Emma picked it up. Her face changed the instant she felt its weight. It was unmistakable, a card reserved for those with no spending limit. Her voice lost its bite. I'll need to verify this. Daniel gave a polite nod. Of course. As Emma walked to the terminal, the live stream comments exploded. They're in trouble, something's off, this is about to blow up. By now, thousands were watching in real time. Customers in the boutique could feel the tension humming like electricity, in the air. The store had transformed into a stage. Every movement, every word was being scrutinized. Daniel stood still, his hands folded behind his back, gazing at the glittering watches. Calm, centered, like a man waiting for a clock to strike. The viewers didn't know it yet, but the real drama hadn't even begun. The verification took longer than expected. Emma returned with the card still in hand, her expression pale. There seems to be an issue with payment processing, she muttered. Her tone lacked the smugness she had wielded before, but her words carried the weight of dismissal. Daniel didn't flinch. What kind of issue? The system flagged it. Additional verification is required. That happens with larger transactions, Daniel replied evenly. Would you like me to call my bank? Before Emma could answer, Laura cut in. Sir, perhaps we can schedule an appointment for later this week. Our protocols require more time. Daniel looked at the clock on his phone, then back at her. His calm was unnerving. I have only a few minutes left. Either you'll show me the watch now, or I'll take my business elsewhere. The teenage live streamer gasped into her phone. Did you hear that? He's giving them a deadline. Her audience spiked again. Thousands were watching. Comments poured in faster than anyone could read. Why won't they just let him see it? This is discrimination. Plot twist is coming. Security guard Michael Torres shifted again, torn between his manager's signal to step in and his own instincts telling him Daniel had done nothing wrong. He had seen plenty of confrontations in his career. This wasn't one of them. Yet Laura's jaw tightened with resolve. Pride kept her locked into the path she'd chosen. You're making our customers uncomfortable, she said sharply. Daniel looked around the store. The faces watching him reflected curiosity, concern, even sympathy, but not fear. He turned back. What specifically have I done to make anyone uncomfortable? You're disrupting normal business operations, Laura replied, her voice firm but hollow. At that moment, a young woman stepped forward from the crowd of shoppers. Her voice rang out clear. This is ridiculous. He hasn't done anything wrong. Why can't he just look at the watch? The store went quiet. Heads turned. Phones captured every second. Murmurs of agreement rippled through the room. For the first time, the tide of public opinion shifted openly against Laura and Emma. Laura's pride hardened further. She gave Michael the subtle signal, the one meant to summon police. Michael hesitated. Everything in his training told him this wasn't justified. His instinct screamed against it. But the order had been given. Slowly, he stepped toward Daniel. Sir, he said quietly, I'm going to have to ask you to leave. Daniel looked Michael directly in the eye. On what grounds? You're causing a disturbance, Michael replied, though the words sounded weak even to his own ears. How am I causing a disturbance? Daniel's voice carried the calm strength of someone who didn't need to raise it. Phones tilted closer. Viewers online surged past 10,000. The hashtag Lorenzo Karma began appearing across platforms. Daniel glanced at his watch, not the modest digital strapped to his wrist, but the timepiece that had been hidden until now. It gleamed under the boutique's lights. A Vacheron Constantin. A watch worth more than most people's cars. Laura's eyes caught it and her face faltered. 1 minute, Daniel said quietly. 1 minute until what? Laura snapped. Daniel didn't answer. He pulled out his phone, typed a short message, and pressed send. Then, with perfect calm, he added, My appointment time. Phones buzzed around the store almost in unison. Notifications poured in. Emails, texts, alerts. Laura's phone lit up in her hand. She glanced down, her face draining of color. The subject line glared at her. Emergency board meeting, conference room C, 3:00 p.m. Her hands shook. The sender's name was one she never expected. Daniel Reed. The store fell silent. The crowd held its breath. The live stream count shot past 12,000 as every eye locked on the man they had dismissed only minutes earlier. And then, without another word, Daniel turned and walked toward the door. Daniel stepped through the glass doors without looking back, but the silence he left behind was thunderous. The only sound was the buzz of phones as employees and customers read the same message. An emergency board meeting scheduled at that very moment. Downstairs, panic spread like fire. Emma stared at the black credit card still resting on the counter, her hands trembling. Laura scrolled through the email again and again, each time hoping she had misread the sender's name. But it was there. Daniel Reed. The man she had just ordered out. Meanwhile, Daniel crossed the lobby with steady strides. Security cameras captured him pressing the button for the executive floor. The elevator doors closed with a chime, and the numbers climbed, higher, past levels most boutique staff had never even seen. Inside the boardroom above, Daniel placed his backpack on a polished table and unzipped it. From the worn exterior, he pulled out a laptop sleek enough to belong on the desk of any CEO. At exactly 3 minutes past the hour, 3 large screens lit up around the room. A woman's voice came through first. "Daniel, I watched the entire live stream. Remarkable." It was Patricia Wong, Chief Legal Counsel for Reed Global Investments. Her expression was sharp, her words deliberate. "The evidence is comprehensive. Over 50,000 viewers and counting." On another screen appeared David Kim, Director of Retail Operations. He shook his head slowly. "In 30 years, I've never seen discrimination play out so blatantly. On camera." The third screen flickered to life, showing an older man with silver hair and a sun-weathered face. Robert Lorenzo, founder of the boutique, calling from his yacht in the Mediterranean. His voice carried disbelief. "Daniel, I don't understand. Why didn't you identify yourself immediately? This could have been avoided." Daniel leaned back in his chair, his eyes cool. Could it? Or would they have hidden the same behavior they've been repeating for months? He tapped a key, and the main display filled with slides. Charts, graphs, and data collected over half a year. Customer, complaints, surveys, security footage. "We've tracked patterns," Daniel explained. "Discrimination complaints up 300% in 12 months. Minority customers reporting negative experiences at nearly triple the rate of white customers. And today's incident makes the 24th recorded case." Robert's face darkened. "Those are isolated misunderstandings." Daniel clicked again. More evidence appeared. Security clips of other customers turned away, staff whispering, managers smirking. The proof was irrefutable. Patricia's voice cut in. "Robert, you should understand the legal exposure. Under California law, discrimination in business establishments carries federal penalties. Each incident could cost over $100,000. Multiply that by 24 documented cases and the liability crosses $3 million, and that's before reputational damage." Robert's voice dropped to a whisper. "That can't be right." "It's accurate," Daniel replied flatly. "Your employees wrote the story themselves. Today it simply went viral." David Kim spoke next. "And what about the lease agreement?" Daniel's lips curved faintly. "Section 14.3. Discriminatory practices allow immediate lease termination." He let the silence stretch before adding, "Reed Global finalized the purchase of this building yesterday evening. As of this morning, Lorenzo's pays us rent." For a moment, no one spoke. Even Robert froze, his face draining of color. "Yesterday?" His voice cracked. "You own the building?" Daniel nodded. "Which means the actions your staff took today occurred under my roof." The tension in the room was unbearable. Outside, the crowd on the street grew. News vans arrived, reporters rushing to capture the story everyone was already watching online. The hashtag #YardLorenzoKarma trended nationwide. Daniel turned back to the screens. "That leaves us 3 choices. Close the store within 30 days. Fight a 2-year legal battle while your reputation bleeds, or..." He clicked again. A new slide appeared with bold letters. "Comprehensive reform with public accountability." Patricia added, This isn't just about money anymore. It's about proving whether luxury retail can choose change over arrogance. Robert swallowed hard. What does option 3 mean? Daniel's eyes sharpened. It means rebuilding your culture from the ground up. Daniel let the silence settle over the room before continuing. His calm voice carried the weight of inevitability. Option 3 means reform, not excuses. It means showing the world that discrimination has no place in business. He tapped. His laptop and a detailed plan filled the screen. Immediate actions within 30 days, Daniel began. Your store manager will be terminated. The sales associate who dismissed me will be suspended until she completes intensive training. A bias reporting system will be installed, and an independent diversity consultant will oversee every step. Patricia added, The law requires accountability, Robert. This goes further. A donation of $100,000 will fund civil rights work across the state. A scholarship will be established, ensuring young people study business ethics and civil justice. Robert Lorenzo's voice trembled. The costs. This is impossible. Not compared to the alternative, Patricia cut in sharply. Federal penalties could exceed $3 million. Insurance hikes will cripple your profit margins. A legal fight could bleed you dry before you step foot in court. David Kim leaned closer to his camera feed. And don't forget revenue. You're losing millions annually by shutting out diverse customers. This isn't charity. It's survival. Daniel stood walking to the tall windows. Below, a crowd had formed outside the boutique. Reporters, customers, curious onlookers. Everyone, holding phones waiting for the fallout. Your store is trending across every platform, he said. Your ratings are collapsing by the hour. Your name is already tied to this scandal. The only question is whether you end this as a villain or as a leader who chose reform. Robert's shoulders sagged. And if we agree? Then we hold a press conference today, Daniel replied. You announce sweeping reforms, you accept oversight, you prove that change is possible. And in return, I suspend legal action, pending compliance. Patricia's screen lit up with alerts. Daniel, civil rights organizations are already contacting us. The NACP, the ACLU, the Anti-Defamation League. They see this as a textbook case. David Kim added, and local government is paying attention. If you stall, this becomes a political storm. But if you act, you can steer the narrative. Robert looked down, his face pale. What if we fail to meet your standards? Daniel turned back, his voice steady. Then the lease ends. You lose everything. He returned to his seat, folding his hands. So the choice is yours, Robert. Fight, collapse, or reform. Decide carefully, the world is watching. Robert stared at the screen. Pride fought with fear. Then he spoke in a quiet voice that carried through every speaker in the room. What do I sign to begin? Digital documents arrived within minutes. Signatures followed. Reform was no longer a suggestion. It was the path. Downstairs, the first emails landed. Laura's termination was immediate for discriminatory conduct documented on the sales floor. Emma received a suspension without pay and a mandatory training plan with a clear standard for return. Michael was issued a formal warning and assigned conflict de-escalation training. The staff read in stunned silence while customers pretended to browse. No one pretended for long. A woman with a calm voice and sharp eyes stepped into the boutique before the hour turned. Dr. Maya Hart introduced herself as the independent consultant. She set small feedback tablets at every counter and asked a simple set of questions. Did you feel welcome today? Was the service respectful? Would you recommend this store to someone you care about? By early evening, the pattern was plain. Many shoppers had felt the tension. Many wanted to be heard. And now they were. In the boardroom above, Patricia filed notice with civil rights organizations. The letters stated the facts, the agreement, the audit schedule, and the promise of transparent reporting. The donation would fund economic justice work. The scholarship would help students study business ethics and civil rights. The message was clear. Accountability would not be private. It would be public and measurable. Daniel called the remaining employees to the showroom. He spoke plainly. Every guest is a guest. Every question deserves respect. Every sale is earned by trust. Mystery shoppers will visit regularly. They will represent many backgrounds and many styles. Scores will link to compensation. Complaints will trigger reviews within a day. A community advisory board will meet in this building each month. Their recommendations will be implemented, not ignored. A shopper arrived soon after. Young, casual, clothes, worn backpack. She asked questions about 3 different watches. The associate on duty listened, answered, and never once hinted at budget. The conversation took time. It ended with a smile and a card, not a push. Her rating on the tablet was nearly perfect. By nightfall, the press began to gather. Daniel stood beside a video link with Robert. No grand speeches, no excuses. Robert accepted responsibility and pledged reform. Daniel described the plan, the oversight, and the public dashboard that would go live. Reporters asked if this was damage control. Daniel said it was culture control. The difference would be seen in the days to come. The next day looked different. Staff arrived early for training. Dr. Hart led exercises that revealed biases people never knew they carried. Role play turned abstract ideas into practical behavior. How to greet without judging. How to ask helpful questions. How to serve without assumptions. How to listen. The board created the advisory group by the end of the week. Local leaders joined. Community voices joined. Meetings were scheduled with regular cadence. Notes would be published. Nothing would hide in shadows. The first week of Vine, data was blunt. Satisfaction rose each day. Comments shifted from tense to warm. People described eye contact and patience. They mentioned staff who let them browse at their own pace. They felt welcome. The public dashboard launched with live scores. It showed trends by category. It showed how complaints were resolved. It showed what the store promised and whether the store kept those promises. Some viewers cheered, some doubted. The system did not ask for belief. It offered proof. Emma returned after completing training. She met with Dr. Hart before stepping back on the floor. She practiced new greetings. She practiced language that invited questions instead of closing doors. She shadowed a senior associate and took notes. Her first week back, her scores ranked near the top. She kept a small notebook at her station with one sentence on the inside cover. Assume capacity. Offer respect. The advisory board met at the end of the month. They reviewed early wins and early misses. They asked for clearer signage on deposit policies. They asked for more multilingual support. They asked for a comfort station with water for guests who needed a moment to rest without pressure to buy. Each request was logged. Each request had an owner and a date. The city noticed, not the scandal. The change. Calls shifted from outrage to curiosity. Other retailers asked for a copy of the protocol. A regional business group invited Daniel to share the model. A major business school added the case to a seminar on ethical operations. The focus was not on shame. It was on structures that prevent the next failure. 6 months passed. The chandeliers looked the same. The marble looked the same. The culture did not. Satisfaction rose to levels the store had never seen. The rise was steady across all groups. The customer base matched the neighborhood more closely than ever before. Return visits increased. Average order values climbed, not because staff pushed harder, but because trust allowed longer conversations and better recommendations. Revenue followed. Emma became an assistant manager. She mentored new hires. She taught them the lesson she learned the hard way. Curiosity first, judgment never. She did not tell a dramatic story. She shared small choices made hour by hour that built a different kind of day. Michael completed his training and requested additional modules on mediation. He changed how he measured a good shift. Not by how quickly he removed a guest, but by how many tense moments never escalated because respect arrived early. Robert kept his promise. He funded the scholarship on schedule. He joined the advisory board for 2 sessions and listened without speaking. He met with Dr. Hart quarterly and asked to expand the program to other stores that carried his name. He understood at last that good taste means little if dignity is not on the price tag. The viral video did not vanish. It became something else. A chapter in training. A reminder of how quickly small choices collect into a culture. A proof that reform can be designed, measured, and sustained. Reed Global expanded the protocol across multiple properties. Results repeated. Faster service for everyone. Safer spaces for everyone. Stronger sales that grew from real trust. The data told a business story. The people told a human one. Daniel stood at the same window where he had once watched a crowd gather. The street below moved with its usual rhythm. Inside, a guest laughed with an associate while trying on a watch. There was no tension in the air, only the quiet ease of a store that remembered why it existed. He thought about that first moment in the showroom, the crossed arms, the raised eyebrow, the assumption wrapped in a smile. He thought about the calm choice he made, not to destroy, to rebuild. Change did not begin with a press conference. It began with a decision in a single heartbeat. It began with a person who refused to accept a smaller welcome than anyone else. It began with a team that chose to learn, even when learning meant admitting they had been wrong. Have you seen a door close on someone who deserved better? Have you opened one when it mattered? Sometimes justice arrives like a storm. Sometimes it arrives like a hand extended with care. The result is the same. A room that feels right when anyone walks in.